Uh, the Rhine River was a lot different. The Rhine River, we crossed at night. Right after midnight, we crossed the Rhine River at Mainz, Germany. Boy, that was a picnic. The Rhine River it's reminds you of the Mississippi, but I believe it's wider than the Mississippi River. It was a big, wide river. So we went down there late in the evening, and we couldn't get the half tracks across because the bridge was down. The big bridges down there, they were all bombed. Got down. So the Navy brought in some PT boats, sort of like, and with two big outboard motors on them. So they took my crew. I think there was 6 of us at that time, and we took one of the machine guns. We had spares. We took one of our machine guns and got a high tripod. We always had spare tripods if we had to do some shooting where we couldn't get in with a half track. We'd carry it in and fire from there. Well, that's what we had to do there. So we load this machine gun onto this this boat, whatever kind it was. It was a Navy boat, and it was odd because we were loading this machine gun and loading, and we had a bunch of booze that we're putting in there, and they said, hey, what are you doing? So that's, well, we can always get ammunition, but we can't always get booze. So I says, what do you, and here I look, and they're not Navy at all. They're Coast Guard. And I says, what are you guys doing here in the Coast Guard? He says, yeah, what are we doing here? So it was the Coast Guard that took us across the river. And as we left the shore, it was deep and fast. As we took, they nosed the front of their boat. We had 2 of them, one with other guys in. So they headed it upstream, and they just went across, instead of going straight across because of the swift current, we went up, and it went like this, up, and as we drifted back, we hit our right point on the other side of the river. We got over on the other side, and we got some shooting. Somebody was over there. It was a small town, and the Germans started peppering us there, and so we never fired a shot. So we just ducked down and hid because we didn't know where they were. So finally, their idea was they were going to shoot us up real good and then run, and that's what they did, and thank God they did, because we had one casualty. One of the boys on my boat, he did get hit I think he got hit in the leg, but it wasn't serious. And then we dug our machine gun in there, and after all this chaos and that trying to get it, and we never fired a shot. We went across that big Rhine River, and they shot at us out on the river, and we had some holes in us, but I let the Navy worry about that. That wasn't our boat. So then, let's see, after the Moselle River and the Rhine River and the Elbe River and the Blue Danube River, I learned something. When we crossed the Danube River, it was a mud hole. When we crossed the Danube River, it was probably 75 yards wide and just a muddy river. So it wouldn't work. And going across, they put a Bailey bridge across the river, and we got about halfway across the river, and we caught some fire, and they shot out both of my front tires. So here we are, kaploompa across this Bailey bridge, and we didn't know if the poor driver could hold it or not, because that's a lot of weight. So we got off the bridge, went on up, got out on the other side, and after we got up the road about half a mile, we got into an area where there were it was a wooded area. So we pulled into that, and we got our half track in there, and one guy was putting a canvas, the tarp up over it, because we weren't going to do any shooting there, because if we did, we'd give ourselves away, because we weren't supposed to be there. Well, anyhow, we got across, and after we got across, 2 or 3 of our other infantrymen, they came there, and they said, we're in trouble. I said, what? Well, after they got across that bridge, and we got 3 half tracks across that bridge, And the Germans come up straight up the river. There was a roadway. And they came right straight up the river there, the Moselle, this was, not the Danube. They came up across there, and they cut that bridge off. We're over here, they're over there, and the Germans in between. So, what are we going to do now? He says, well, we either get shot or surrender or something. We're not going to surrender. So he said, well, what are we going to do? We said, well, I don't know. So then they start barraging us. They threw some mortars in with us, and we knew that they were short of ammunition, because if they knew we were there, they knew they were there, and they only threw in 3 mortars. If they knew we were there, they'd have thrown in 30 of them. They'd have really predated. But we knew then that they were short on ammunition. Well, and we had one guy there with us, and we were digging holes in there, trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do. And so this guy, Martin, guy by the name of Martin, and he was an alcoholic. Nice guy, good, clean-cut guy, but he drank a lot. So he came around, and somebody says, boy, I says, I'd like to have a bottle of wine now. He said, you guys want some wine? We says, yeah, we want some wine. He said, I'll go get you some. We says, are you nuts? The Germans got it cut off down there, about 100 yards down the road. They got us cut off, but we can't move. We're lucky to be alive. Don't worry about it. He says, see this draw right here? He says, when I come back, I'll come back up that way, so don't shoot me. We said, okay. So we wait there. He's a French-Canadian. So he goes, and he's gone for a long time. It was dark, And finally, we could hear rumbling in on the weeds, and we're all, if it had been a goat or anything, boy, he'd have been in trouble. So he comes over, and here's Martin. He's got 2 bottles of wine. He says, well, I had 3, but I drank one. He told us that he went down. He didn't go around. There was some tanks right there by where that Bailey Bridge was, guarding it. And he came down, and he walked right between those 2 tanks. And he said there was guys, Germans, with the tanks. He said, I walked right by them, went on over, went around, swam the river, went over to Douillard, France, got some wine, come back, walked right by the guards at these tanks. The guy was nuts. Come back, and he hands us the bottle of wine, and there he was, bottle of wine. And I lost, 2 guys were killed and 3 guys were injured in that. 2 of my dearest friends, Leon Skolnick and Baker. I'd been with those guys since early England, all the way through. They were like brothers to me. Ate, drank, and everything with those guys. And they both got killed with the same shell. I got knocked down. I was with the 3 of them. And the mortar went off right at our feet. And I was airbound, or airborne. I was in the air, flipping, and I landed hard. And that's all I remember. The next thing I remember is that somebody's pumping on me, trying to get me to breathe, because I couldn't breathe. The shell went off and got all the breath out of my lungs. So finally he did, and I tried to get up, and he's hollering at me, lay down, lay down, lay down. Let me check you. So anyhow, I was hurting all over. And so I finally got up, and I didn't realize about my friends. Didn't realize, and I get up, and I couldn't stand up or nothing. I was in bed. My clothes were all torn, and it was a mess. And that's when I didn't see him. But I started to get up to go over, and one of the medics grabbed me and pulled me back. And I don't know what he said, something like, you don't want to see that. And that's when I heard that my 2 buddies were both killed that night. That's right.